Well, your next guest says that America is not the next Greece. Not yet. But that if Washington does not cut its spending and trim its financial fat, we could end up in the fiscal poorhouse. Jeff Miron is a senior fellow at the Cato Institute and author of Libertarianism from A to Z. All right, Jeff, here we go. We have seen cuts in California, hard cuts. We've seen cuts around the country. A lot of the public is mad. What can we cut still, politically or financially, to avoid the financial fate of some of the European countries that we just visited last week?
Well, the basic starting point has to be the recognition that four components of the federal expenditure account for 75–80% of the total: national defense, Medicare and Medicaid, Social Security, and payment of interest on the debt. So if we don't address those components, then it's very, very hard to make a significant difference. So Social Security and Medicare, we'll leave National Security out for the moment, are huge components, and especially Medicare and Medicaid are growing at very substantial rates because medical technology improves year after year, and so there's more and more that people will spend money on if they're not paying for it out of their own pocket.
Jeff, it's Dagan. It's good to see you. Why is it so impossible for any politician, virtually any politician, to cut Social Security and Medicare if all it takes is trimming the age of eligibility a little bit, raising it rather, and then trimming the benefits just slightly?
I think it's impossible to do a lot of sensible policies because when people listen to them, they think only about one side of the ledger. They think, oh, that change in policy might negatively affect me, and so I don't particularly want it, even if I recognize that on the whole it might be the sensible thing for the country. So almost everybody is hoping to eventually collect Social Security benefits, Medicare benefits, if they're not already collecting them. So when you say we're going to gradually phase in a higher age of eligibility, everybody who's 50 or 45 or 35 says, gee, I don't really like that because I'd rather be able to start getting those benefits sooner. And so they tend to vote against it. So politicians vote against it, even though people are concerned about the debt and the deficits. But no one wants to make the specific cuts because those specifics hurt people.
I'm going to go high-tech here, Jeff, and use my fingers for this one. All right, I got four fingers up. You got interest on the national debt. We can't cut that because that's not our call, right? The debt's already out there, and the interest has to be paid, and rates are already low. You just said that Medicare and Social Security are basically uncuttable, which leaves one thing: national defense. Is that cuttable? Should that be cuttable?
Well, again, it's very hard to convince. I mean, there are obviously varying views about whether we should cut it. Okay? If you are opposed to the current occupations of Iraq and Afghanistan, then there's certainly several hundreds of billions of dollars per year that we're spending there that could be cut or at least reallocated to alternative uses. But there's not the political will to do that either. I mean, the Democrats were very, very critical of those interventions, okay, during the Bush administration, but now Obama's president, the Democrats control Congress, and there's hardly any indication that we're going to reduce that expenditure by any significant amount in the foreseeable future. So if there's no political will to cut Medicare or Social Security, likewise, there doesn't seem to be the political will to cut national defense. So you ruled out, the interest on the debt. Well, we could actually default. Okay, if we default, then a lot of that is incurred by the rest of the world, by the Chinese who own a lot of our Treasury bills. So in some sense, that's an appealing approach. The approach that's likely to happen is inflation.
Jeff, but
that's the other possibility.
All right, one, put some odds on default for the United States first. And secondly, do you think that the growing, whatever you want to call it, Tea Party movement, anti-incumbent movement that you are starting to see will be popular and powerful enough to really change the way we do business as a country?
I think the odds of actual default, of outright default, are very, very low for a long time. I think the odds that we inflate away the value of a lot of the debt, I think the odds of that are fairly good. That's, in effect, a default. You're sort of reducing the value of what we owe, what we pay back, but not in this dramatic, just refuse to actually send the payments back fashion. So I think the odds of that kind of default are high. I don't know that the Tea Party is going to make a huge difference because I think the Tea Party, although it's sort of unified on economics and constitutional issues, may not be unified on social issues, foreign policy issues. So once those become important in addition to the economy, then they're going to have the same issues as the Republicans, and so it's not so clear. I just don't know.
Jeff Miron of the Cato Institute. Jeff, always a pleasure. We'll see you soon.
Nice to talk to you. Thank you.